It was the kind of event that could make or break careers, the annual Innovation and Tech Expo in Los Angeles. The conference hall buzzed with excitement as some of the brightest minds in engineering and technology showcased their latest projects. Investors, executives, and industry leaders roamed the massive venue looking for the next big thing. Among the hopefuls was Ethan Carter, a 24-year-old engineer fresh out of college. He had spent the last 2 years developing an advanced bionic prosthetic arm, a project inspired by his younger brother, Jake, who had lost his arm in a car accident. But despite his passion and endless hours of work, funding had been nearly impossible to secure. This expo was his last chance. If he couldn't impress someone here, his dream of making affordable, high-functioning bionic prosthetics would fade away. He stood at his booth, watching as industry giants like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Robert Downey Jr. walked the floor, evaluating projects. Ethan adjusted his suit, wiped his sweaty palms on his pants, and forced a smile. This was his moment. Ethan was so focused on preparing his pitch that he didn't notice the man casually strolling toward his booth. It wasn't until the murmurs of the crowd grew louder that he looked up. And there he was, Robert Downey Jr. The actor wasn't just a Hollywood icon. He was a major advocate for technology, AI, and engineering innovation. His work in promoting real-life advancements in bionics had made him a respected figure in the tech world. And now, he was standing right in front of Ethan's prototype. Ethan's throat went dry. He had imagined pitching to investors, maybe even some tech moguls, but not Tony Stark himself. Downey raised an eyebrow and smirked. "So, what do we have here?" Ethan took a deep breath, trying to steady his voice. "It's a next-gen bionic prosthetic arm, lightweight, affordable, and designed to function as close to a real hand as possible. It uses AI-assisted motion prediction and sensory feedback to improve control." Downey nodded, clearly intrigued. He reached out and picked up the arm, inspecting it carefully. "And what makes this better than the ones already out there?" Ethan straightened up. Most high-tech prosthetics cost over $100,000, making them inaccessible for many people who need them. This model, if mass-produced, could be available for under $10,000 without sacrificing quality. Downey whistled. "That's a hell of a price drop." Ethan continued, his confidence growing. "My younger brother lost his arm in an accident. Seeing what he went through inspired me to develop this. I don't want people like him to feel limited by what they can't afford." Downey placed the prosthetic back on the table and looked at Ethan thoughtfully. The energy in the booth felt different now, more personal. Then, with a sudden grin, Downey said, "All right, show me." Ethan blinked. "Show you?" Downey rolled up his sleeve, revealing his own bionic arm, a gift from real-life prosthetics company Limitless Solutions years ago. "Let's see what this baby can do." With shaky hands, Ethan connected the bionic arm to Downey's residual limb. The sensors calibrated quickly, syncing with Downey's nervous system. The moment of truth had arrived. Downey flexed his new mechanical fingers, and the hand moved flawlessly. The crowd around them gasped. Ethan barely held back tears. It worked. Downey curled his fingers into a fist, then gave Ethan a playful punch on the shoulder. "Not bad, kid. Not bad at all." Ethan let out a nervous laugh. "Could use some refinements." Downey nodded. "Yeah, but that's what prototypes are for." Then, after a pause, he looked Ethan straight in the eye and said something that would change everything. "You need funding?" Ethan's heart nearly stopped. "Yes, desperately." Downey smirked. "All right, let's talk." Before Ethan could even process what was happening, Downey stepped aside, pulled out his phone, and made a call. "Hey, I need you to come check something out. Right now." Within minutes, a group of investors arrived, shaking hands with Downey before turning to Ethan. Downey crossed his arms and grinned. Give them the same pitch you gave me. Only this time, you've got Stark Industries' unofficial approval. Ethan's hands shook as he turned to face the investors. This was it, the opportunity he had been waiting for. He took a deep breath and began. Ethan swallowed hard as he faced the investors. His mind raced, his heart pounded, but he knew this was his moment. The moment. With Robert Downey Jr. standing beside him, there was no room for failure. Ladies and gentlemen, Ethan began, clearing his throat. What you're looking at isn't just a piece of technology. It's a second chance for millions of people. A chance to regain control, independence, and dignity. The investors leaned in, intrigued. Downey stood nearby, arms crossed, a knowing smirk on his face. He had seen potential before, and he was seeing it now. Ethan continued, showcasing the AI-assisted bionic arm in action. He explained how it was lighter, more affordable, and functionally superior to anything currently on the market. Then, he paused, locking eyes with the room. This isn't about profit, it's about accessibility. My goal isn't just to create the best prosthetic arm in the world, it's to create one that anyone can afford. The room went silent. Then, one investor leaned forward. And what do you need from us? Ethan took a deep breath. Funding to take this from prototype to production. Manufacturing, distribution, and most importantly, getting this technology into the hands of those who need it most. Another investor chimed in, nodding. What's your estimated cost per unit? Under $10,000 with proper scaling. Ethan replied confidently. That's nearly 10 times cheaper than anything on the market. Downey grinned, clearly enjoying the moment. Then he turned to the investors and simply said, Well, what are you waiting for? The lead investor exchanged glances with his colleagues before extending a hand. All right, Ethan. Let's talk numbers. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He reached out, shaking the man's hand. This was it. Downey clapped him on the back. Told you. You just needed the right people to listen. Over the next few months, Ethan's life transformed. The investment deal was finalized, and he suddenly found himself running a fully funded startup dedicated to revolutionizing prosthetic technology. With the funding in place, Ethan was able to move from a small apartment to an actual office space, hire a small team, and begin production on the first batch of prosthetic arms. It was overwhelming, exhausting. But for the first time in his life, he wasn't fighting alone, and neither was his younger brother, Jake. The day Ethan finally strapped the finished bionic arm onto Jake's shoulder was one of the most emotional of his life. His brother flexed his new mechanical fingers, watching in amazement as they moved effortlessly, responding to his brain's signals. Jake's eyes welled up with tears. Ethan, it works. Ethan smiled, his own vision blurring. Of course it does. You were my inspiration. Their mother stood in the corner, wiping away tears. I'm so proud of you both. It was a moment that made every late night, every setback, and every moment of doubt worth it. Months later, Ethan's company had grown beyond anything he could have imagined. His affordable prosthetic arms were now available across the country, with hospitals and clinics ordering them in bulk. The impact was real. And then, one day, Ethan's assistant rushed into his office, looking flustered. You might want to step outside. Ethan frowned. What's going on? His assistant simply pointed. Through the glass doors of his office stood Robert Downey Jr., leaning against the reception desk with his signature smirk. Ethan's jaw dropped. No way. Downey shrugged. What? You think I wasn't going to check up on my favorite engineer? Ethan laughed, shaking his head. I thought you'd be off saving the world. Downey grinned. Nah, I leave that to you now. Ethan led him into the office, where Downey marveled at the progress. From a small expo booth to a thriving company, it was unbelievable. Then, Downey turned serious for a moment. "You made it, kid. But tell me one thing. Are you paying it forward?" Ethan nodded. "Actually, yeah. We're starting a foundation to help cover costs for people who still can't afford the prosthetics, even at the lower price." Downey smiled, clearly pleased. "That's what I wanted to hear." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a check, placing it on Ethan's desk. "Consider this my official investment in your future." Ethan looked down at the check, and his eyes widened. It was for $1 million. His hands trembled as he looked back up at Downey, who simply smirked. "I believe in you, Ethan. Don't let me down." Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. "I won't." A legacy of kindness. That day, Ethan made himself a promise. Just as someone had believed in him, he would believe in others. With the extra funding, he expanded his company's reach, donated prosthetics to those in need, and set up scholarships for young engineers with big ideas but no resources. And every time he doubted himself, he remembered the words that had started it all. "All right, show me." Because sometimes, all it takes is one person believing in you to change everything. And that brings us to the end of this story. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Remember, kindness and opportunity can change a life forever. Thank you for watching.